From the PEP Radio Newsroom, this is the News Blast for this hour. The acting chair of the federal agency that enforces workers' rights acknowledged Wednesday that transgender workers are protected under civil rights laws, but defended her decision to drop lawsuits on their behalf, saying her agency is not independent and must comply with President Donald Trump's orders. Andrea Lucas, who was first appointed to the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission in 2020 and elevated to chair in January, spoke at her confirmation hearing at the Senate Committee on Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions. Her nomination to serve another 5-year term as an EEOC commissioner requires Senate confirmation, though whether she stays on as chair will be up to President Trump. Republican senators praised her leadership, especially her commitment to rolling back Biden-era regulations and guidance on gender identity rights, which Lucas has argued overstepped the EEOC's authority. Lucas faced questions from Democrats who said she has eroded the traditional independence of the EEOC and acted on the president's whims since Trump fired 2 of the agency's Democratic commissioners before their terms expired in an unprecedented act. Lucas, a strident critic of diversity and inclusion programs, despite the fact that if it weren't for those, she wouldn't have the position she does, and proponent of the idea that there are only 2 immutable sexes, which science says, no, you're just dead wrong, repeatedly declared that the EEOC is not independent and vowed to enthusiastically follow Trump's executive orders. In other words, she's guzzled herself full of Fool-Aid. Those include orders aimed at dismantling diversity and equity programs in the public and private sectors and declaring that the federal government would only recognize the male and female sexes. As head of the EEOC, I'm committed to dismantling the identity politics that have plagued our civil rights laws, Lucas said. President Trump has given the agency the most ambitious civil rights agenda in decades. If I have the honor of being reconfirmed, I am passionate about achieving that agenda. The committee also heard from 3 Department of Labor nominees, Project 2025 author Jonathan Berry for solicitor, current EEOC Acting General Counsel Andrew Rogers for Administrator of the Wage and Hour Division, and former U.S. House Representative Anthony D'Esposito for Inspector General. Senator Patty Murray, a Democrat from Washington State, pressed Lucas on the EEOC's dismissal of 7 gender identity discrimination lawsuits, asking if it was her decision to drop a California case involving gender nonconforming workers in which the EEOC had charged that a store manager groped an employee, asked an employee for sex, commented on an employee's breasts, and used sexual profanities. Lucas affirmed it was her decision, alongside consultation with staff, to drop that and 6 other cases because of Trump's executive order declaring that there are only 2 biological immutable sexes. It was impossible to comply with both the president's executive order and as an executive branch agency, and also zealously defend the workers we had brought the case on behalf, she said. Later in the hearing, Lucas acknowledged that a 2020 U.S. Supreme Court ruling did clearly hold that discriminating against someone on the basis of sex, including firing an individual who is transgender or based on their sexual orientation. But Lucas, citing confidentiality laws, declined to answer Murray's questions about how the EEOC intends to handle discrimination complaints from transgender workers, including an order first reported by the Associated Press to classify all new gender identity-related discrimination cases as its lowest priority, essentially deeming them meritless and putting them on hold. Simply put, the LGBTQ+ community cannot and should not and must not rely on the federal government to act in our best interests. They simply won't do it. We must push Governor Shapiro and Pennsylvania legislators to provide at least some level of protection where no such federal protections exist anymore. The Trump regime is really out to wipe out the LGBTQ+ community, and they will continue to chip away our rights as swiftly as possible. That's the News Blast at this hour. If you are watching our videos on YouTube, be sure to subscribe to our channel. Download the Live 365 app to take PEP Radio with you wherever you go. Up next, we have the Meadville area weather forecast here on PEP Radio.